Hello everyone, back to today's first video. We're doing JMA Friday. For today's first video, we're going to have a look at the weather next month with Japanese and CFS B2 models. It's going to take us into the second half of February, so we're running down to the end of winter 2016-2017 with this update. Later on today, we'll have a look at weather next week to 10 days, have all the latest and what's happening in the stratosphere and all that kind of thing. That'll be coming up with you this afternoon. Before we get on with JMA Friday, just say about the ads. There's links to articles on all the pages. Have a browse through widgets and click through the links. If there's any articles that you're interested in, you're helping us to pay for the website. Thanks very much to you, Matt. Also video ads, both pages, which own our content. And again, give those a watch. Maybe it'll help us to pay for our website. So we'll start off with the Japanese one. So we're going to look at JMA first of all, and then we'll have a look at CFS-B2. Starting off with the 500 millibar height anomalies, broken down into week periods from the northern hemisphere view down. So, from North Pole down. So this is the top of the pole just here. British Isles is just there. 500 millibars, 8,000 feet, is an area in the atmosphere called the troposphere where weather is taking place. Blue extrapolates to low pressure, and yellow, orange, red extrapolates to high pressure. So the first week takes us from the 27th of January today through to the 3rd of February. We find we've got a deep trough of low pressure in the Atlantic really revving up from the east coast of America through to the western side of Europe. The jet stream coming through as well. This looks much more unsettled than anything we've had so far this winter, I would assume. There'd be bands of rain being thrown up across the country and probably quite strong winds as well. Does look quite wet. Week 2 taking us from the 3rd through to the 10th of February, still placing this deep trough out to the west of the country. So this looks very unsettling indeed. A prolonged spell, at least a couple of weeks, of really unsettled conditions. We have got a ridge over to the east of Europe, but that's not able to do much for us. That looks really unsettled through the first half of February. And then we go through to weeks 3 and 4, which is the 17th through 24th of February, and the JMA not really seeing much change, to be honest. The colours do moderate a little bit, so slightly less intense with the trough, but the setup is still the same. Low pressure is out to west, high pressure is up to the east and northeast. And the flow is going something like that. So it looks still very changeable into the second half of February, albeit with a slightly weaker signal. That does look like it could be really very unsettled February indeed. Let's have a look at the temperature and precipitation anomalies that go with those heights. So we can look at the mid-latitude and tropical view next. The British Isles is just here in the top right-hand corner of the chart as you're looking at it. Reminder of the 500 millibar height only for the coming week, 27th of January through to the 3rd of February. And low pressure is in the Atlantic. Deep trough, and we're bringing the jet stream through like that. So we expect this to be a very wet period. The precipitation anomaly is significantly above average. We haven't seen much of that over the course of this winter, and even back into the autumn, actually, very dry autumn as well. So it's been a long while since we've had an extended spell of unsettled weather, and there we go with the coming week coming out with above average precipitation. Because it's Atlantic driven, we've also got above average temperature, so we're ending January, starting February on a milder than average note. We go through to week 2, which is the 3rd through 10th of February, still with that deep trough out in the Atlantic, still with jet stream coming through like that. So again, we have another significantly wetter than average week with above average precipitation during the coming week. And in terms of the temperatures, again, significantly milder than average, much milder than average, as it is for most parts of Europe as well. So where we've been in the freezer across many parts of Europe through December and January, it looks like February, certainly the first half of February, is very significantly milder, and it's just a continuation of the mild winter really for western parts of Europe. And then we move through to weeks 3 and 4, which takes us from the 10th through 24th of February. And the broad pattern is still the same, really. The trough has eased a little bit in the Atlantic, but it still looks a relatively Atlantic-driven pattern. Remember, this is a 2-weekly anomaly, so it could be a little bit transition. It might be that week 3 is still very Atlantic-driven and settled, and then week 4 we're building pressure, so that's why overall the heights are easing off a little bit, but the intensity of the below average heights are easing. Could be something like that. But overall, it does look Atlantic-driven 2-weekly period. So precipitation is still coming out above average, perhaps not quite as wet as it is in weeks 1 and 2, but even so, above average rainfall there into the second half of February. Temperatures are still a little bit mild on average, but they are reducing a bit. So it looks like it's turning a little bit cooler, a little bit closer to average, but nothing, of course, definitively cold showing up there. Looks very mild and wet, really, for February, especially the first half. So that's the JMA. Let's have a look at CFS V2, see if we've got agreement. These again, 500 millibar heights, break it down into week periods. The first week period takes from the 27th of January through to the 2nd of February. Low pressure is in the Atlantic, high pressure is over there in the east of Europe, and the jet streams coming through rather like that. So it's a changeable period in agreement with the JMA, certainly for low pressure be running in off the Atlantic. It does look quite a deep trough as well, with those blue colours out to the west of us. So unsettled for the coming week. Week 2, which is the 3rd through to the 9th of February, again, deep trough is out in the Atlantic from the east coast of America and Canada through to west of Europe. This ridge is still across the east of Europe. Jet streams still coming through like that, so again, looks Atlantic driven and changeable there through the first week of February. Quite a lot of rain will be expected with that one. Week 3, which is the 10th through to the 16th of February, still placing that trough to west of us. Again, the ridge is to the east, probably going a little bit further east, back towards West Russia. So over time, that ridge is being pushed back by the Atlantic milder air, increasingly moving into the east of Europe, probably. And for us, back in west of Europe, it looks very unsettled, very changeable, with low pressure dominating through to the middle part of February. And then we go through to week 4, which is the 17th through 23rd of February, and possibly signs of a bit of a change then. The trough is still there to the west of us, but it may be that it's digging increasingly to the south, so it might be moving down towards the Bay of Biscay and northern parts of Spain, something like that. And I'll have to change the colour, but you'll notice all of this red that's up here, that looks like it's high pressure beginning to push up towards the North Pole and possibly moving over a little bit towards Greenland as well, moving that way. So as we go through the second half of February, we don't have this stratospheric warming at the moment. As we go through to the second half of February, we might see the high pressure migrating more towards here. If we do, then we'll start to push this trough southwards and possibly begin to open the door to colder air from the north. There's not a great deal to go on in terms of that anomaly in itself, to say that's what's going to happen, but it might be that it's edging that way. But of course, that is the 4-weekly anomaly. It's a 4th week, so it's a very long way off, and we just have to watch this space really on that. Certainly going to the middle part of February, it does look very mild and wet and changeable. So, temperature anomalies for the coming week, 27th of January through 2nd of February, coming out above average. Then week 2, temperature anomalies from the 3rd through to 9th of February, very significantly milder than average in that week as well. Notice how mild it is across most parts of Europe as well. So where we have been very cold through the earlier part of the winter into the middle part of winter, does look significantly milder for the latter part of the winter across Central and Eastern Europe. Week 3 temperature anomalies from the 10th to the 16th. Again, very significantly milder than average. Again, many parts of Europe coming out really significantly milder, average warmer than average. I have to say it's probably a bit over top. That looks a bit over top to me. But there we go. That's what the CFS is going for there. And week 4, which is the 17th, 23rd of February, still looks milder than average. So it does look pretty grim, really, for anybody who wants cold weather in February. That's about as bad as it gets in terms of those temperature anomalies. I think they're probably a bit over the top, especially for Europe and into Eurasia. Precipitation anomaly is wetter than average through the coming week. That makes sense. The Atlantic's coming back significantly wetter than average through early February as well. Week 3, and normally by this point the signal for precipitation is weakening, but it's still a very strong signal there from the 10th to the 16th of February to be wetter than average. And then week 4, the signal is weakening, it's going back closer to average, but even then, for western parts of Cross Island, the signal is still more or less wetter than average. So it all looks pretty grim. If you want cold weather, I suspect it's a bit over the top, but certainly the first half of February, I think we are looking at basically an Atlantic-driven, mild, wet, windy first half of the month. The interest from a cold perspective and snow perspective will be in the second half and probably in the final week to 10 days to see whether this stratospheric warming that's occurring now, because it's normally a 2 or 3 week delay on effective weather, whether the stratospheric warming that's occurring now eventually gives us some high pressure and blocking to the north, which produces colder weather into the second half of February. That's where the interest will be. It's probably too early for these models to be picking up on that because stratospheric warming is only occurring, so they probably can't factor that in to their output. We'll know more next week, I think, whether this might produce some colder weather into the second half of February and obviously going through to early part of March. But for now, certainly for the first half of February, it's wet and windy, and I'll have more on that with the next video coming up this afternoon. So come back for that if you want to do that. Right, that's all for now. Thanks for watching.